So is it just me or is the left completely demented? Like full on, absolutely emotionally incontinent, raging with each passing minute that they're not in charge and they want the rest of us to die. Do I have that right? I think that's what it is. Good morning, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to Vince on a Wednesday. Man, it is so good to have you here with me. This is the best damn audience in media. I've got a very big show for you today. The president coming out for a big press conference yesterday at the White House. Proof of life, proof of life. Yeah, he's doing just fine, actually, despite all of the conspiracy theories about that. We'll get into that. We also get into what's going on with crime in the country. The president of the United States has an amazing relationship. It's blossoming into something very beautiful going on in Washington, D.C. with the mayor there. And then in Chicago, well, that relationship is a little more forceful. The president's going to have to step in and clean things up, whether or not America's least popular BJ likes it. So I've got a lot to get to today. Also, Dr. Ben Carson, who, have you heard, is a brain surgeon. He's going to stop by the program. One of my favorite people on the planet. Can't wait to talk to Ben Carson. It's all ahead on this edition of Vince. I want to thank our great sponsors that make all of this possible. If there's something that all of us can believe in, this is hard work, self-reliance, and showing up for the people who count on us. But a while back, I hit a wall. I was getting terrible sleep. And then I would drag myself through the next day on fumes. That doesn't work. In fact, I knew I had to find something to break me out of that cycle. And that's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Now, Beam is proudly founded in America, and it's run by people who share our values: hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a nighttime blend that's packed with science-backed ingredients that are shown to improve sleep, so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on each new day. And I'm telling you, it's delicious. It's delicious. You ever think to yourself, man, I could go for a cup of hot chocolate right now, a little bit of cinnamon in that just before bedtime. You're going to drink that. That's what Dream Powder is. It is so good. It's delicious. Dream is made up of a powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, melatonin. And here's the deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. So you can try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use the code Vince Show at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Vince Show. Use that code Vince Show for up to 40% off. Well, it did happen yesterday. One of the left's latest demented fantasies collapsed in just a fireball of nonsense. Because President Trump came out yesterday for a big announcement yesterday afternoon. He stepped out to the Oval Office and he brought a bunch of members of the cabinet with him. He brought the Alabama congressional delegation with him. And the whole point was to announce that they're moving the headquarters for Space Force from Colorado to Alabama, to Huntsville, Alabama. And that was always the president's plan to begin with. Joe Biden and whoever was running the autopen presidency got in the way of that. And then President Trump, back in office now, is seeing that through. And that's great news. He said yesterday there's a whole bunch of great strategic reasons why it should be moved to Huntsville. It's going to save people a lot of money in terms of the travel times that are necessary to get to and from that base. And it's just going to be a great setup for the Space Force. So congratulations to everybody involved in getting that done. Congratulations to the great state of Alabama for getting that done. And the president's always had a very warm spot for Alabama, given that state's role in his political career, as very early on he was warmly embraced by the state of Alabama. So you're kind of seeing that come full circle. That's great news. But the president steps up yesterday, and he makes this announcement, and it becomes crystal clear right away that all of the lies that the left had been telling about the president over the course of the last week were just that, lies. He's in great shape. He looks wonderful. He's as strong and fit and ready to go as ever. And, in fact, Peter Doocy at Fox News asked President Trump yesterday, hey, did you hear the rumors that you were dead? Did you hear about that? Take a look at this moment at the press conference.
You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors.
You know that, you know who he's talking about? Chad, who's he talking about? What interview did President Trump do on Friday? It was just shy of an hour, actually. What interview did he do Friday that was on one of your competitors, the president says to Peter Doocy at the Fox News Channel? You know the answer to that because we talked about it yesterday on this program. It was with my White House reporter, Reagan Reese at the Daily Caller. Yeah, that's right, Reagan. Yeah, Rach MT 2023 gets it right away. Yeah, so Reagan does the interview with the President of the United States. He was in great shape. They had this great conversation Friday. It goes about an hour, and then they head out to the Rose Garden in the midst of it. They're touring the Rose Garden. They're checking out everything the president's up to. And then he spent the weekend golfing at his own golf course in Virginia. Hard to beat that. Be president of the United States, do a fun interview, and then head off to your own golf course, and then come back after a restful Labor Day weekend. And the media is wish casting that you're dead. That's crazy. It's totally crazy. And the president, once again, stack it up with his victories, is driving the left absolutely crazy by being alive. Just by being alive. Last night on Stephen Colbert's show, Colbert had to stop the audience from booing the good news that President Trump is perfectly fine. Take a look here, cut 8. Here's Stephen Colbert trying to stop the audience from cheering on the death of a president.
When I came back in the office, I was shocked to learn that this weekend, the biggest story was frenzied social media rumors speculating whether Donald Trump had died. For the record, Donald Trump is very much alive, okay? And no, we like our presidents alive.
Now, a couple things about this clip, just a basic point. There's a lot of people pointing out already this morning, Colbert had to stop them from booing the fact that President Trump is alive, and that's true. Chat, be honest. Do you think Stephen Colbert knew that the audience was going to boo that? You think so? I do. I think he knew they were going to boo it. How could they not? They wrote a script as they do every day. They write a script for the monologue. And then he says, President Trump is alive. That's the update, that President Trump is actually alive. And the audience starts booing immediately. If I was seated in that writer's room, I would have told, hey, Steve-O, hey, hold on a second. You understand what's going to happen? When you say President Trump is alive, the audience is going to boo tonight because the only kinds of people who are going to that show anymore are hair on fire, crazy left-wing lunatics who root on the death of the president of the United States because he's Donald Trump. You understand what's going to happen? So Colbert is trying to look like, I'm stopping them from their worst instincts. I was the responsible person here. When he was the one who scripted the entire event to begin with, they wrote that down just so the audience would boo on national television that the president's alive. Just in case anyone tries to make excuses otherwise. But somehow Colbert was not the worst this weekend. No. That distinction goes to Tampon Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who admitted to an audience this weekend that he's been eagerly checking the news because he can't wait to hear that President Trump has died. Listen to Tim Walz in a disgusting statement from a stage.
You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
What a jackass that guy is. What an utter jackass that guy is. There he is, like sheepishly scratching his neck, Oh, there will be news. I was looking for news. There will be news at some point. What the hell is wrong with you? What is it about these lefties? They really do wish him dead. They do. Boy, they hate Trump. They hate everything about him. They hate that he's exposed them as much as he has. They hate that he's revealed how corrupt this system is. They hate that he's successfully confronted it, not in one presidency, but in now two. They hate that he came back from the political dead. They thought that they had him dead and buried. He was gone. They hate that. They hate that he survived an assassination attempt and rallied more support from the American people to his side in the wake of it. They hate it. They hate that he stopped Hillary Clinton from seizing office. They hate that he stopped Kamala Harris from seizing office. They hate everything about him. So they want him dead. I don't know how else can you read Tim Walz's reaction to this? Walz is clearly grumpy that he lost the election, deservedly so, and he wants to take it out on President Trump, and he's rooting on his demise. It's pretty sick stuff, actually. And if for a moment any lefty out there thinks, oh, well, they're just doing what Trump would do. This is the way Trump is. It is not. It is definitely not. President Trump definitely can get into the mud and fight with people. No question about it. He's in some ways an insult comic at heart. You know, he'll make fun of somebody's looks. He'll knock them around a bit. But he's always been a counterpuncher. He reserves those fights for the people who attack him, and that's when he swings back. That's just always the case. But never once have I ever heard the president of the United States, this president, root on someone's death. Hope to be waking up to the news that his political opponent had been killed or died. That's just awful. No, that's not a Trump move at all. Trump's a decent person compared to Tim Walz. Tim Walz is a scumbag. And that news made its way all the way to CNN, actually, last night. Of course, Scott Jennings was the one to say it. Here's Scott Jennings saying on CNN, for real, that Tim Walz is a piece of shit. Listen to this.
Documenting every day, oh, Biden stumbled on getting on the plane, or he walked a certain way, or he looked a certain way today. And now we're sort of seeing that flip on its head with Democrats taking that approach.
And why did we have to document it? Because nobody else would.
Hold on a second, Scott. You had an opportunity to ask the president today about this, and you did not. Why?
Well, because when he got on the phone and sounded very much alive, I thought it would sound kind of stupid, frankly, to ask an alive person if they were dead. But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of shit. I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words at this table today.
Tim Walz,
okay?
the governor of Minnesota, holding up a phone in front of a rally saying, well, we thought we were going to wake up and find out the president had died. Someday it'll happen. Someday it'll happen. I used to say he was the biggest buffoon in American politics, but it's worse now. No political official, no elected official should be walking around.
A piece of shit, says Scott Jennings. And by the way, that says a lot. Jennings is it seems like a bottomless reserve of patience for the idiots that he has to deal with on a daily basis over on that network. And for him to say that doesn't seem like a small thing to me. And he's appropriately diagnosing Tim Walz, who is a bad person. I mean, think about Tim Walz's record as the governor of Minnesota. He's been a disaster. His wife was pining for the burning of Minneapolis. She was opening the windows so she could smell the burning in her community. It's also crazy. Also, there was a school shooting that just took place in his state last week. Children killed by a transgender identifying crazy person, a mentally ill human being opening fire, clearly influenced by the demons, and killing children inside of the Annunciation Catholic Church. And Tim Walz, it is now well documented, has made Minnesota a state for this kind of craziness. They say it's a safe haven for that mental illness. You want to be transgender? You want to be convinced you were born in the wrong body? You want to continue down that path of destruction? Minnesota is the home for you. That's the message that Tim Walz has given. And also when the private schools, when the Catholic schools, like Annunciation, sought protections from the state in order to harden themselves against this kind of attack, Tim Walz denied them. So in Tim Walz's own history, just in the past week, he has deaths that occurred in his own state that he bears some degree of responsibility for. And then he goes into the weekend rooting on more death of the president of the United States. Thank God that guy is not living in the Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C., the official residence of the Vice President of the United States. And speaking of the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, and his lovely wife, Usha. Do you know what they're doing today? They're visiting the Annunciation Catholic Church today. They're visiting with the families today in order to bring them comfort, in order to hear their stories, in order to treat them like the human beings that they are in the wake of a tragedy that has upended that community. That's what's happening here. And man, Scott Jennings got him right. Tim Walz is a piece of shit. And he just keeps proving it. It's really, really, really sad stuff. Big time. Okay, more for you now. I want to talk about some of these other ridiculous Democrats and what they're up to. We've got the Illinois governor and Jelly Belly Pritzker, we call him, JB. And we've also got Brandon Johnson, Mayor Brandon Johnson, 6% approval rating of Chicago. They had a press conference yesterday, and they're idiots, but they came out and they said they have reason to believe that President Trump is about to crack down on crime. We have reason to believe, check out cut 9, as these guys are talking about what makes them think President Trump may come to rescue Chicago.
We have reason to believe that the Trump administration has already begun staging the Texas National Guard for deployment in Illinois. I want to be very clear on this point, and I want to speak directly to the press right now. We know before anything has happened here that the Trump plan is to use any excuse to deploy armed military personnel to Chicago. If someone flings a sandwich at an ICE agent, Trump will try and go on TV and declare an emergency in Chicago. I'm imploring everyone, if and when that happens, do not take the bait.
You understand what he's saying? There's a reason he said flings a sandwich. It's not just because he loves sandwiches. J.B. Pritzker would never fling a sandwich. He would consume them. But the reason he said that is because in Washington, D.C., a few weeks back, we did have a deranged lefty attorney who worked for the United States Department of Justice, for real, take a Subway sandwich and throw it directly into the chest of a federal law enforcement officer, captured on camera doing it. And when taken to the D.C. grand jury for an indictment, despite the fact that they had video evidence of the assault, they didn't give him a charge. They did not bring an indictment, the D.C. grand jury. And I've got more information on that. I don't want to get distracted by that right now, but I just want to point out something specific here, which is that guy who assaulted that law enforcement officer has become a hero for the left. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, is rooting on assaulting police officers. He just said when that occurs, in other words, when some police officer in Chicago is assaulted, he's referencing, don't accept the president's excuse for sending in the National Guard. Don't take the bait, he says. That guy's the sitting governor of the state saying he's okay with assaults on cops as long as President Trump doesn't get credit for rescuing the city. Crazy. Now, as I point out, the beginning of that is where they said, Trump is staging people. Trump is staging people. So he's coming in. Well, sure enough, the president of the United States addressed this yesterday in the Oval Office. I am, he said. I'm definitely coming in. Listen here. Cut 10. Here's the president of the United States confirming that, yes, the National Guard is going in to Chicago.
Mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called D.C., District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, they wouldn't shoot Peter Doocy. The president's very happy with what he's done in Washington, D.C., and he says, boy, this should be replicated everywhere. And he just announced, I love that. I love that the Illinois governor said, we have reason to believe that Trump is coming in. Yeah, I'll give you another reason. The president just said it. we're going in. We're going into Chicago. Now, as you may have noticed, the president didn't give a specific time. He didn't tell him. It's going to be a surprise. Surprise law enforcement coming to Chicago. But what the Illinois governor and the stupid mayor of Chicago should be doing right now is they should be working with the president. Why are they turning this into yet another losing issue for these idiotic Democrats? And I'm not here to give them political advice. I don't want them to be rescued from their death spiral. I'm perfectly okay with their political plane metaphorically running into the ground. I'm fine with that. What I don't want to see is more people be shot and killed in Chicago. What I don't want to see is more Americans dying in the streets. I'm done with that. I don't want that anymore. And so the president of the United States is going to step in and do something about it in light of the fact that those people in Chicago are being sold out by the people who are supposed to be leading them. The 6% approval rating mayor and Jelly Belly Pritzker, who is more interested in demonizing Trump than he is in rescuing his own people. In fact, this is par for the course, isn't it? The left's policies always have a body count. The left's policies always have a body count. And Chicago, which has experienced this for a long time, may finally have some help on the way. I've got more ahead on this and how these Democrats should maybe be modeling themselves off of one of their fellow Democrats who's decided, you know what? I'm crying uncle. I'm working with Trump. I'm going to try and stop the crime problem. I'm ready to do it. I think more Democrats may want to follow that lead. That's ahead on Vince. Hey, I got to thank our great sponsors. Bone Charge is a great sponsor and a great company. They've got the infrared sauna blanket and the red light face mask. And Bone Charge sent those products to me and my wife, Allison, and we can't recommend them enough. Now, that sauna blanket, it's been a big deal for me. I never thought in a million years I would have a sauna available to me at my house. And thanks to the sauna blanket, I do. And it helps with muscle recovery and detoxification. It's a huge change for me in my life. It's easy to use. I just wrap myself up, let the infrared heat work its magic. And it's created a real difference for me. It helps me relax and rejuvenate. It's great. And my wife loves the red light face mask. Allison puts that on each night, and she's seen fantastic results. It's like having a mini spa treatment right at the house. It helps improve your skin's texture, reduces inflammation. It's awesome. Now, if you're thinking of trying these products out, you're in luck. Head to bonecharge.com, boncharge.com. And I get some emails. In fact, I got an email yesterday about this, asking me, hey, what's the promo code for the red light face mask? Okay, again, boncharge.com. The promo code, Vince. Really simple. Vince. At checkout, you'll get 15% off. Both of these products have made a huge positive impact on my life and my wife's life. I'm sure you're going to love them too. Use the code Vince at bonecharge.com. Save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Bonecharge.com. All right. How we feeling, chat? Huh? We feeling good? This, man. No, Haunted House. Settle down. Settle down, Haunted House 5. Yeah, things are good. It is great. I felt so recharged from that Labor Day weekend too. We had such a good time with family and friends. It was so nice. I hope you guys had that too. All right, let me get into what is going on here. Baking Becca's feeling great. Kickley Bass is feeling great. I love it. Let me get into what's going on here in Washington, D.C. So I told you Chicago is crazy. In fact, actually, let me just dwell on two more things out of Chicago, I promise, and then I'll get to Washington, D.C. One of them is that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said yesterday that the shootings will continue until President Trump stops trying to help Chicago. So remember, I said Chicago's got a body count. The left, every time, their policies always have body counts. Check out Cut 11. Here's Brandon Johnson yesterday saying more people will be killed until Trump stops trying to help us.
Shootings will continue as long as this presidential administration continues to put politics over people.
The shootings will continue until Trump stops trying to help. Okay, thanks, Brandon Johnson. Meanwhile, Jelly Belly Pritzker said, no big deal. Murders happen all the time. Murders are nothing. We're used to that. It's merely a statistic. Why should I be worried about that? Instead, let's talk about Orange Man Bad. Here's J.B. Pritzker, Cut 12. Take a look at this yesterday.
You're going to hear people, especially this past weekend, 54 shot, 7 dead.
Yeah.
They're going to say the city's not safe. Would you ask your friends to ride the L after midnight or after, 9 o'clock at night even to come down to the city from O'Hare?
Look, big cities have crime. There's no doubt about it. But let's just pay attention to what President Trump is doing targeting Chicago. He's overlooking red states that have much higher crime rates.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Let's just focus on Trump, he says. He's overlooking red states. The left is trying to pull a stunt here that not a single person should fall for. It's the red states. Oh, really? Give us more information. No, it's the blue cities in the red states. They say Tennessee's got a crime problem. Yeah, in Memphis, run by Democrats, into the ground. Stop with your stupid games. It's these Democrat-run jurisdictions that are hellscapes, and it needs to be stopped. And President Trump wants to do something about it. So in Washington, D.C., the president's had a lot of success. He invoked a power that's available to him through the Home Rule Act of 1973. Really straightforward. The president gets to take over the D.C. Police Department for 30 days. And that power will expire on September 9th. So we're just a couple days away from that. We're 6 days away from that as I'm talking to you. And right now, the president has asked Congress to extend his authority over the D.C. police. But in the end, he may not need to. And here is why. Yesterday, the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, came out and she signed an executive order instructing the police department in D.C. that they are to work with federal law enforcement going forward and to follow federal law enforcement priorities. Take a look at this. Let me pull up this Washington Post piece. You've got the piece here. Bowser to provide indefinite coordination with federal law enforcement, says the Washington Post. This was published yesterday evening that Mayor Bowser did this. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser on Tuesday has ordered indefinite coordination between the city and federal law enforcement officials, a powerful indication of her willingness to cooperate with President Trump's efforts to take over public safety in the capital city. Bowser issued an executive order that requires local coordination with federal law enforcement to the maximum extent allowable by law within the district, and the order gives no expiration date. In a statement on social media, Bowser said the order is going to provide a, quote, pathway forward beyond the presidential emergency. And she wants to work with Trump, quote, on their shared priorities. Now, the Washington Post points out that there's some incentives here for Bowser to do this. One, they say that what she is doing, working directly with Trump here, is unusual among national Democrats. They say the strategy represents a drastic departure from the prevailing attitude of national Democrats, whose leaders are loudly fighting back against the White House, but who don't face the same threats to their local autonomy as the capital city. Yeah, that's because President Trump can take control of the police force in D.C. on his own. He can't do that in other cities, but he can send the National Guard in. Bowser's advisors think that earning Trump's trust will ultimately give her more authority and is the best chance at preserving home rule. Okay, I want you to understand what this means. Her incentive is she doesn't want Congress to take over D.C. again. Now, I've long been an advocate that Congress needs to take over Washington, D.C. They've been abdicating their responsibility for the city for far too long. It is long past time to take over the city again. But right now, Muriel Bowser is worried that she will become D.C.'s last mayor. That if she doesn't play her cards right, that the Republican Congress, pushed by the Republican president, will take back control of Washington, D.C. So she sees the writing on the wall, and she does not want that to happen. So right now, she has signed an executive order telling the cops, work with Trump. Whatever he wants, just do it. Just keep doing it. And for now, I think the people of D.C. should take that. That's great. Now, I don't think that Congress should give up its quest to take over D.C. I don't think the president should back away from that. I think he should pursue it anyway. But the president right now is very pleased that Muriel Bowser is, one, admitting the truth about how bad things were, two, expressing gratitude for how much better Trump has made them in the nation's capital, and three, that Muriel Bowser has now signed an executive order saying, Trump's in charge, let him do his thing. Let him do his thing. The other piece here is that Muriel Bowser is working to finalize a deal that brings RFK Stadium to Washington, which requires cooperation with the federal government. Well, RFK's, I don't know, that's a weird sentence. RFK Stadium is in Washington. She means bringing the Redskins, the Commanders, to RFK and finalizing every element of it and then building the new stadium. They just want to see it all through. And the last thing she wants is for that to be imperiled. And the president wields an enormous amount of power over that equation. So that's really what's going on here. So if you're wondering, like, why is it Muriel Bowser is all of a sudden turning in Trump's direction? The answer is because she wants to preserve her own power in the city. And if she screws this thing up, she loses. The D.C. City Council loses. And that's the last thing they want to do. But meanwhile, there's a lesson here. And Democrats across the country have to be absolutely, you know this, seething with rage that Muriel Bowser is being decent to the president of the United States. They don't want to see that. They don't want any Democrat to step out of line, to say that the president's doing something right, to admit that the data is improving, to admit that crimes are actually being punished, that the law is being enforced. So I encourage you to look out for this. Watch for that civil war to really explode over the next few days as Democrats become enraged by Muriel Bowser because she has become a perfect example of how much better your city could be if you simply work with the guy who's trying to save it. Amazing. Amazing. All right, I've got so much more for you. Dr. Ben Carson is just minutes away. I should say Secretary Dr. Ben Carson is just minutes away. Always love my conversations with him. That happens in just a moment. But first, Blackout Coffee is a fantastic sponsor of this program. You know them as, well, a great sponsor here, and you should also know them as a completely delicious cup of coffee. You see, Blackout is proudly the official coffee of all of us here at Silverlock. And the reason for that is because it's bold, it's unapologetic, it's America First coffee that I believe in, and it's roasted fresh right here in the United States. It's not grocery store junk. Blackout Coffee delivers rich, high-quality roasts that actually taste like a cup of freedom. Have you ever wondered what freedom tastes like? It tastes like Blackout Coffee. And now you can set it and you can forget it with auto refill and recurring delivery. No more running out, no more watered-down backups, just your favorite roast delivered fresh on your schedule. So pick your favorite roast, how often you want it delivered. And not only do you get a discount, but you also get double the rewards and free shipping to your doorstep. And boy, it is a great cup of coffee that I start my day with every day. So here's what you do. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Use the code Vince. That's VINCE and get 20% off your first order. Whether you're into bold roasts, flavored coffee, even instant, Blackout's got your back. Real coffee, no compromise. Blackoutcoffee.com/Vince. Get yours now. Blackout Coffee. Thank you to Blackout so much. Great company. Also, another great company that has done so much for us. Brickhouse Nutrition. Lean. You should know about lean. Are you a yo-yo dieter by any chance? Do you diet, you lose weight, then gain it all back plus a few extra pounds? It's dangerous. Studies show that pattern can actually increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. You can break free of that yo-yo diet pattern. You can. It's a main reason that doctors created lean. Lean is a supplement, not an injection. You don't need a prescription. And the science behind lean is so impressive. Its studied natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, helps you control appetite and cravings, and it burns fat, which is what you want, by converting that fat into energy. Now listen, if you're just tired of losing weight and then gaining it back, lean was created for you. I'll get you started. 20% off. Perfect. 20% off when you enter Vince at takelean.com. That's the code Vince at takelean.com. Takelean.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and it's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Perfect. Takelean.com. All right. I am so happy to have joining us right now the great Dr. Ben Carson. You can find him on X at Real Ben Carson. He's the founder and chair of the American Cornerstone Institute, and you, of course, know he's a great neurosurgeon, and he ran for president. He was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Dr. Carson, good to talk to you again, sir.
Good to be with you again, Vince.
Is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do, by the way? But the resume is like too much, actually.
I'll just be complete when I get to heaven. That'll be the best thing.
Well, God bless you for it. I do want to ask you, every time I talk to you, I realize all of a sudden we start going deep. And one area that I'm concerned about was you saw that the shooting last week at the Annunciation Catholic School. The Vice President of the United States and the Second Lady are visiting that community today to bring their condolences to them. The media instantly sought Dr. Carson, to downplay the mental illness that was very clearly behind the shooting. A person who considered themselves transgender began opening fire through the window of that church. How seriously do you think we as a culture should take this problem?
It's a very serious problem. It tells us that we're doing a lot of the wrong things as we're raising our children, a lot of the wrong influences. You have in schools perfectly normal boys and girls who have incompletely developed brains. Brain doesn't fully develop until your mid to late 20s. And they're being told, you may not be a girl, you may not be a boy. Now, they may have some underlying psychological issues, but that certainly doesn't help. And they become confused and very vulnerable. And I think at least we're starting to see that maybe this is not normal. And for a very long time, people who had what they want to refer to as gender dysphoria,
Yes.
that was a medical condition in the psychiatric manuals. Then they took it out, say, this is normal. It's not normal. And it leads to a lot of confusion. A lot of the people who undergo sex transformations end up in very difficult psychological situations. A lot of attempted suicides, a lot of actual suicides.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's something wrong here. And at least we need to start talking about it and not sweeping it under the rug.
You mentioned brain development and how impressionable young people are and how susceptible they are to these kinds of delusions if they have adults pushing them on them. What is the impact, as a doctor, what's the impact of injecting someone with hormones or filling them full of cross-sex hormones? Does that impact the brain?
Of course it does. It impacts brain presently and development, so it can affect it in the future as well. And we have not really studied that issue. We don't know what the long-term impact of these kind of very dramatic hormonal manipulations are on people. And it could be some of what we're seeing. But we'll never get to the bottom of it as long as we make excuses for it and sweep it under the rug. And, I'm very disappointed in people in the medical profession who know that there are consequences for manipulating the hormones in people. And yet the almighty dollar dictates what they do. That's a problem.
It's disgusting. Last week, there were a number of people on the left who immediately responded by either trying to cover up the fact that this was a transgender person, a delusional person, or made some sort of excuse like that, like he was the victim in all of this. The Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, came out and said that by mentioning this detail, this mental illness, that you are attacking the transgender community, and he's not going to stand for it, that the transgender community is being victimized here. You had people going on television who were respecting the killer's delusional, pronouns, saying, Jake Tapper said, oh, this is a she and a her. What do you make of that reaction? How could you possibly have a reaction like that after a killer like that kills children inside of a church?
Well, these people are so covered by the woke mentality that they have to reinterpret everything in light of that philosophy. So they don't really even stop to think about, are there alternatives? Should I be considering something else? They just go full-fledged into the defense of what their philosophy tells them. And, that is a significant problem. Couple that with them coming out and saying, prayer doesn't work. Why are you talking about prayer? What we're dealing with here, I hate to say it, is good and evil. And, our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, says that our rights come from our Creator. Our principles tell us to love your neighbor, not to hate your neighbor, not to cancel your neighbor if they disagree with you.
Yes.
Those are the kinds of things that lead to chaos in a society as opposed to success.
But why prayer specifically? Why is there so much animosity towards believers on the left? Because in the wake of that shooting at a Catholic church, Christian children on their knees gunned down, the left was condemning people who were praying for their souls. Why?
Right.
Why would they condemn that?
Well, remember, with Marxism, communism, and socialism, there's no room for God because the government has to be central. It has to be the answer to all of your problems. So anything they can do to push God aside and to denigrate him, they do. And, that's been going on for a while in our system. Look at how they extracted God from school, prayer and Bible reading in the early 60s, over 60 years ago. Have we gotten better since then? Are we better people? Is our society better? Is there less trouble? I don't think so.
No, it's too much. Let me ask you some other questions that intersect with policy and health. RFK Jr. is trying to make a bunch of really important changes. You just talked a moment ago about the almighty dollar and the sins that are committed in its name. RFK Jr. is trying to clean up that system. He's detected a lot of corruption in the way that the government gives medical recommendations, and he'd like to give parents kind of a reasonable expectation that's dedicated to the health of their children and not to the enrichment of the pharmaceutical companies. So as a result, they've been debating what the vaccine schedule should look like for newborns and young children. One of the things that's come up for debate is, for instance, should we give newborns the hepatitis B vaccine when the hepatitis B is both either a sexually transmitted or a dirty needle transmitted disease, usually. What do you make of this debate and the efforts to try and stop us from having it?
Well, I'm glad that it at least it's being debated now instead of just pushed on people. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of vaccines that are pushed on little babies these days is absolutely incredible. And many of them are very useful, don't get me wrong, but we haven't studied the impact of putting them all together into an individual. And we really need to be talking about that. And this is a decision that needs to be made with intelligent conversation with one's pediatrician. And that's not being done. There's no question that some vaccines are absolutely essential for the health of the community at large. Others are quite optional. And we should make that very clear to people.
In other words, treat them like adults, like Americans who have their own freedoms and liberties to make these decisions for their kids. We have an entire system that has treated parents as an inconvenience when it comes to the orders it gives us about how children should be pumped full of drugs.
Well, you can see how our public health system has lost so much credibility during the COVID situation. You should wear masks. It'll stop the spread. You should not wear a mask. You should save the mask for the medical professionals. There's no such thing as long-lasting natural immunity. It only lasts for a few weeks. I mean, just crazy stuff. And we know better than that. And yet we allowed that to be pushed on people. We had crazy rules, like if you have a pandemic and you want to bring on a new vaccine to get an emergency use authorization, there can't be anything else that is effective. So, of course, hydroxychloroquine, oh no, that'll give you a heart attack. That'll kill you.
Yes.
Ivermectin, that's horse serum. Now, they actually knew better than that. All they had to do is look at the West African countries where their percentage of COVID was 94% less than ours. And that should perk you up and you say, why are they having so much less? And then, of course, you do a little bit of investigation and you find out that they use hydroxychloroquine as an antimalarial. And if you're going there, they want you to take it.
Yes.
That should have rung some bells.
In other words, you take it as a prophylactic. You take it in anticipation that you might encounter the disease. And of course, it had positive impacts. But no, but here's what you're missing, Dr. Carson. That doesn't enrich Pfizer. Pfizer doesn't get rich off of that. So we
Exactly.
can't recommend you take some cheap and widely available drug. That's insane.
And we probably would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yeah.
That's the real issue. How much is a life worth?
Yes. Well, God bless you for saying it. Let me ask you your impression of the Trump administration now as opposed to when you were in office with the first Trump administration. How do you think the president and his cabinet have changed since the administration that you were a part of,
Well,
45?
I think there's a much greater alignment now. In the first cabinet, the president didn't know most of these people, didn't know their backgrounds. He didn't know a lot about Washington, D.C., and he's learned an enormous amount since that time.
Yeah.
And the 4 years off, he wasn't just sitting around playing golf the whole 4 years. He was studying. He was recognizing what are the issues that are really important for the survival of our nation. You know, things like our energy,
Yeah.
things like our nutrition, things like education, things like bringing our important industries back into this country so that we're not dependent on other people. And he was ready to go. And he made sure that he picked people who were in alignment with that
Yes.
philosophy. And that's why things are moving so fast. It's kind of funny when you look at, because back in the 30s, there were these two professors at Columbia, uh, Flower and Clip, what were they?
Flowers and Piven.
Yeah, Clower and Piven.
Yes.
And they were socialists, they were Marxists. And they said, if you really want to change the society, what you have to do is you hit them with so many things, one after another, they can't really focus on any one thing.
Yeah.
He's turned the tables on them.
Yes, he has. No question about it. He definitely has. Do you think so? I don't know if you and I have had this conversation, but when you saw him shot in Butler last year, and then he stands up, he rallies the crowd, and then he goes on to win the presidency. Did you think that that was the hand of God? Did you feel like there was divine intention in all of that?
No question about it. And I've had conversations with him about it. And, you know, I talked to him about the fact that I thought God had his hand on him even before that. And he kind of acknowledged it. But now I think he really believes it.
Yeah.
And it's really made a difference in the way that he reacts to things. You remember during the first Trump administration, the media could manipulate him like a little puppet, you know. And now they can't do that anymore. And it's very frustrating for them not to be able to just push a button and have him go off.
Yes. Yeah, no, he's on a different level now. You can definitely tell.
And I asked them a few months ago, I said, here you are in your late 70s. Now, most people in their late 70s are sitting on the porch in a rocking chair. And here you are with all of this energy. Where are you getting all this from? And he thought for a moment. He said, it's from God.
Yeah, that's amazing. And a brain, by the way, I bet you'd want to study. That guy's got something going on. Dr. Ben Carson, you're a great person. I always love our conversations. Thank you for doing this today. Good to talk to you again.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Take care.
There he is. All right, Dr. Ben Carson with the American Cornerstone Institute. He's done it all. You know, and every time I have a conversation with Ben Carson, this is the thought I have, and occasionally I vocalize it. Let me vocalize it here for you. That person, the man I just talked to is a legend. He's a complete legend. He became famous for a bunch of reasons in medicine. He was the first person to successfully separate conjoined twins at the head. Amazing. He revolutionized something called a hemispherectomy. He's got just an amazing story. In fact, his story was so amazing that there was a book about it, his autobiography called Gifted Hands, that became one of the best-selling autobiographies ever. It was turned into a movie called Gifted Hands, starring Cuba Gooding Jr., massive success. And the world widely acknowledged how impressive a man that is up until he decided to run as a Republican for elected office. And the second he did, the left began to open fire. He went from genius, inspirational American success story to we have to destroy him. he's a buffoon, he's an idiot. Look at him, he's a Christian. That's insane. They attacked him. They absolutely ripped him limb from limb. And I always thought that was just one of the most telling and vicious episodes that can open your eyes to just how disgraceful our media are in the service of democratic power. It's a very straightforward thing. And a fond memory I have of his time running for office was that moment in the presidential debate. And at some point I don't know if I've had this conversation with Dr. Carson. We'll have to talk to him about it in the future. But remember in the presidential debate when Dr. Carson is called to come out on stage, and he's not quite sure if his name has been called, so he's kind of standing in the tunnel waiting to come out onto the debate stage. And when President Trump's name is called, Trump comes out, Trump sees Carson there, and he goes, well, if Ben's going to stay here, I'm going to stay here with him. So President Trump stayed there with him for the duration of all of the names being called. And finally, the last two people to walk out onto the debate stage together are Ben Carson and Donald Trump. And I just thought it was a great and touching and charming moment that eventually became, a great presidency in presidency 45, and now a renewed and more battle-hardened president, Trump, for presidency 47. And you heard from Dr. Carson there, who served in his cabinet. What a difference, these years have made, where he has a cabinet who's working with him now. He's got guys who are all on the same page, which is really cool. Oh, is Dr. Carson still there? Is he? Oh, Dr. Carson. Okay, can you put him back up? Well, Dr. Carson, first of all, I said a bunch of nice things about you, so just ignore all of that. I was just being nice. But can you tell me really quickly about that moment? What was that like on that debate stage? Because that's the one I always laugh when I think about it. Sometimes I go back and I just watch it, where you're standing there. It appears you didn't know that they had called your name and you just were waiting patiently to hear it.
Well,
What happened?
They had called it when someone else was being introduced, and the audience was applauding still when they called my name, and you couldn't hear anything. So obviously, I didn't want to go out if my name hadn't been called. That would be kind of strange.
Sure.
So I just stood there and waited. And everybody else gleefully walked by, but Trump came and stood with me. Over the course of the campaign, we became friends, and discovered that philosophically we were peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Personality-wise, we were a little bit different, to say the least.
For sure, to say the least. But I remember that 2016 campaign, he stood up for you. Obviously, there was some political incentive to do that. I mean, he was, at the time, he and Ted Cruz were somewhat neck and neck. President Trump was still leading. And Ted Cruz's campaign had made up a fake scandal about you. In the Iowa caucuses, they had suggested you had dropped out of the race. And that's actually where the nickname Lion Ted came from back then, as President Trump started going after him for that. But again, he seemed to be, I don't know, there was a fondness between the two of you that continues to this day.
Absolutely. And we agreed that whoever won, the other one would be in his cabinet. But, I've just had so many wonderful occasions with him to see what kind of person he is.
Yes.
We were walking around Mar-a-Lago not too long ago and ran into a bunch of the workers. And, he starts engaging them in conversation. They were having the best time. He pulls out a big roll of $50 bills and starts passing them out. Say, go buy your wife something nice,
That's cool. Mostly because I don't really see 50s these days. The 100 apparently makes an appearance occasionally. I don't know how he's finding these $50 bills. That's pretty cool. That's very neat. And then last, I just mentioned a moment ago in my praise of you that I thought that the media treatment of you was revealing. It told the story of the way the media treats people. It's based purely on power politics. For years, you were well regarded. The New York Times considered you an important American figure, and rightfully so. And then the second you ran for Republican politics, were you shocked by how things changed so rapidly?
Not really. I was very familiar with the media and how they treat people, and understood that to be the case. But, I have never been one who goes around with my finger in the air trying to determine which way people think and how I should react.
Yeah.
I just need to be good with God. If I'm good with God, I'm good.
God bless you for it. That's a great lesson. Thank you, Dr. Carson, again. I appreciate you.
All right.
All right, there he is. I think he's officially heading out this time, but he hung around. I was like, I didn't know he heard all that. I was trying to be nice to him without him here, but there he is, Dr. Ben Carson. Okay, boy, well that was a great moment. I actually enjoyed that for a bunch of reasons, including that I got to finally talk to him about some of the stuff that I've been thinking about for years, but not directly relevant to the news of the day. All right, let's see. Yeah, Ben Carson is a treasure. I totally agree, Clamarina. All right. Let me see what else I have for you. That kind of threw me off a second because we got into. Oh, this is great. I can't leave without this. On this program, I got to be careful. It was either on this program or on the radio show, one way or the other. I know I've said this out loud. We've been wondering sometime, when are we going to strike the cartels? Washington wants you to be involved in every war but wars that are in our own interest. Those they don't care about. But everybody else's interests, Washington's all in, Just spend more money, just do that. Let's go off to war in all these different places. Let's send a lot of weapons over. But what about the war that's killing over 100,000 Americans a year? What about that war? What war are you talking about, Vince, says D.C. establishment rando? The war on Americans that's being waged by the Chinese and the Mexican drug cartels in particular. Fentanyl. Drug overdoses. Over 100,000 Americans a year dying, and we're not killing anybody for that? In a just war? We're not mowing down the people who are absolutely murdering Americans every year? What's going on there? So for a while, we've been, a lot, Trump supporters have been wondering, okay, when are we going to strike the cartels? What's that going to look like? Are there going to be drone strikes inside of Mexico? Are we going to send in special forces? Are we sending in the military to go after these guys? President Trump told Reagan Reese on Friday that he said Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is scared of the cartels. She's scared, and she's trying to keep the president from intervening militarily in Mexico because she's just too beholden to the cartels there. He said she's a lovely woman, but she is scared, he said. And finally, yesterday, we had something happen that I've been calling for, which is let's start with boats. A lot of these drugs get taken into the United States over the water. And the good thing about bad guys conducting their operations in the water is you can limit civilian casualties by striking a boat and taking it down. And in addition to doing that, if you broadcast the results to the planet, you send a message to the cartels. The United States is not screwing around. We will blast you to kingdom come. If we see you, we're taking you out. And here's what we get yesterday. Here's the President of the United States sharing to Truth Social the following video, cut 4. The United States military striking Venezuelan narco-terrorists as they're trying to move drugs into the United States. For those of you watching on rumble.com/Vince, there it is. An American strike on a cartel vessel operated by Tren de Aragua from Venezuela. Boom, gone, dead. Now, this is important. This is exactly what I thought should happen. Strike a boat, broadcast it to the world, and send them a message. And in fact, the President of the United States, in his Truth Social post, said the following. He said, earlier this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. He said this is a foreign terrorist organization. He said they killed 11 terrorists in this action. No U.S. forces harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and a lot of exclamation points. So this is exactly what needs to happen. God bless the president for doing it. Here's the president yesterday, cut 5, revealing we took it out. He's telling the press, before the Truth Social post, he's telling the press, we just took out some narco-terrorists. Listen to this.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that
So
boat.
hardcore.
And you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did.
Yeah, the United States military working to defend American interests directly, stopping Americans from being killed by the murder weapons that were being transported into America. I'll take that every single day of the week. Blast them and televise it and send the warning. Anybody else want to do that? That same fate awaits you. Great work. By the way, the Democrats, you know what their response is? They're upset. They're upset, of course. The president now has Democrats defending the cartels and the narco-terrorists. In case you're wondering, how does this all work? It works that way every single time. I'm grateful for you as always. I'll be back tomorrow on Vince. We have another big show scheduled for you. It's going to be great. And then I've got the big national radio show today, 12 to 3 Eastern time. You can check that out, rumble.com/Vince, or find your local listings at thevinceshow.com. You're the best audience anywhere. Glad to have you with us again today. Up next here on Rumble, Steven Crowder, straight ahead.